Let me tell you a story. Remember I told you how before I came back, one of the things I asked the Lord was whether or not to cut my hair. And the Lord told me not to cut my hair. I said, Lord, you sure?
Modesty and faith. One of Nigeria's famous pastors, Pastor Jimmy Odukoya, the son of the late Pastor Bimbo and Taiwo Odukoya of the Fountain of Life Church, shared a very profound opinion about fashion and Christianity. And this particular video that I'm about to share you, is being highly controversial on the internet lately. And I personally have had my opinion concerning this issue. We made it known that it was actually God that asked him to retain his dreadlocks. Like he has an artificial dreadlocks on him, and it was like it was God that asked him to retain it. And this has been really controversial. Pastor Jimmy Odukoya wears earrings, sometimes he uses necklaces, he wears a lot of rings as a man, and he has dreadlocks, huge beards, which is seemingly strange to Christianity. Seemingly, like, yeah, there is a way that we in the world expect a Christian to look. We have, once you hear that someone is a Christian, we have this kind of preconception of how a Christian is supposed to look. It is common, it's general, like everyone, almost everybody, every Christian feels like that. So my question is, are we not trying to look like Pharisees and Sadducees, most especially when they are pastors or deacons or holding a very high position in faith? We believe that there's a particular way they're supposed to look, and that's the period. And I used to be part of this particular point of view until until I get to see some things. I see people looking very holy, very, very holy. And when they behave, I begin to question myself, kilo shele gangan, like who just behaved that like that? Who just did that? This thing has happened to me so many times. I don't know if you have experienced this before. Like you've seen someone and you're like, oh my god, this is an angel. Like this person is like Jesus' younger brother. And when they behave, you begin to have a headache. These things happen a lot. And so it brings me to the question, does appearance really matter for Christian? Like, does it really matter? Does it really matter? As much as we may think it is matter or it is not matter, there is a place for modesty. Like I stay there, that's where I am. You guys should know. I always say this. It doesn't mean because you are a Christian, you should be shabby, you should not look good, you should not be fine. But at that, you should still be modest. Jesus was gorgeous. I mean, people were tearing his clothes, they were sharing it, they were struggling to have a piece of Jesus' clothes. His clothes was expensive. He smells good. Jesus always smell good. He was good looking, handsome, clean, neat. So you should be too. But at the same time, you should be modest. You shouldn't do too much. It doesn't mean that you should now do it all too much. So let's go ahead and hear from Pastor Jimmy Odukoya as he explained that it was God that told him to keep the dreads. Let's go.
Let me tell you a story. Remember I told you how before I came back, one of the things I asked the Lord was whether or not to cut my hair. And the Lord told me not to cut my hair. I said, Lord, you sure? He said, don't cut it. I said, I don't know what you're trying to do, but I'm crazy enough to follow you. Let's do it together. I told you that ASP came to me. My sister's like, this your hair? I'm like, yeah. She says, you know when they try to give you like old adages, and she says, to clean a fish, you must first catch it. In other words, if you're going to bring about change, it must be first accepted. Truly wise words. Truly from a good place. Truly from a heart of concern. But I knew what God had said to me. So I say to her, sis, I hear you, but go pray. God will speak to you. She has a vision. She sees me preaching with my hair. She comes back and says, oh, guess what? You're not supposed to cut your hair. I said, I know, because he already told me. Now that's not the part of story I'm going to. A couple of weeks ago, it's on a Sunday, and Pastor Tony comes in and tells me, and he says, there is a lady outside from Zimbabwe that came to see you, and she flew in from Zimbabwe. Now Zimbabwe is southern Africa. She flew from the tip of southern Africa all the way to West Africa because she wanted to come to church. I said, what do you mean? So I'm like, please bring this lady in. And she begins to tell me a story. Now she's like so excited. She says, people think I'm crazy. I told everybody I'm coming to Nigeria for the next 3 to 4 weeks. I'm just coming to church. So I'm like, huh? What happened? And she begins to tell me the story. Listen to this. It was 2016. I was in New York. It was Thanksgiving. And I had a vision, and it felt so real. In this vision, I see you with your hair, and you're speaking to me, and I've been dealing with some things in my life, and there was like this dog on my shoulder, and I knew that this dog represented the weight I was carrying. And she says, you had this long sword, and you began to speak to me, and it felt like lightning and thunder was coming out from the sword, and he burnt the dog into ashes, and he began to declare over me, and I gave her certain instructions. She says, when I came out from this vision, it was so real that I told everybody in my family about this vision, about this person that I saw, this pastor with long hair and a sword. It made no sense, but I told everybody. She says, fast forward to 2025. She said, after that vision, I went through a tough breakup, lost everything in a divorce. My ex took the house, said everything I worked for. It was a tough time. She says, all my family are Seventh-day Adventists, by the way, but I lost everything. I said, to compound issues, my mom got sick, and I watched her die in my arms. And so I was flogged into depression. I wanted to end it all. And all I knew was I had to find God. So I was trying to find him, like, I need God to find me. And she says, so I turned on YouTube just to hear sermons. It says, all of a sudden, pops up on YouTube is your sermon, and you're preaching mercy me. And she says, you don't understand, because listen, when I had this vision, I didn't know you existed. The person I saw, I did not know was a real person. So when I saw the man in the vision with the long hair preaching, I began to scream, this is the man I saw. This is the man I saw. She said, people thought I was having a mental breakdown. I was calling everybody. I found the man I saw in the vision. He's real. I didn't know any pastor would have long hair. It's him. It's him. And people are like, what's going on? It's like, I need to go. I need to go. Here's what's crazy. Now listen. In 2016, I didn't have dreads. In the time she had the vision, I did not have my hair. The God who sees, the God who hears, the God who knows, knew that at some point in February 2025, one of his children would have to see a man preaching. Guess what? If he did not ask me to keep my hair, I would have cut my hair. And when I popped up on the screen, she would have seen me with no hair, and it would have meant nothing. But the Lord who knew, fast forward 2025, she would need to see the man with hair, told me, don't cut your hair. And I thought he was doing it to try to prove a point. It was bigger than that. It was to save a life. Now listen to me. If I had listened to the opinions of people who told me it's impossible, who told me you cannot have the call and have this hair, it is not African, it is not godly, it is not God. God told me to keep my hair to save the life of someone. And because I heard him, she would fly 6 hours and come to church for 3 weeks. She would cancel all her appointments. She would say, everybody leave me alone. And she said to me, these last 3 weeks have been healing for me. You don't understand. She says, thank you for heeding the call. Thank you for listening to him. And I'm saying that to say, it is so important to know God for yourself.
I'm sure that you guys have seen this video. You've heard it to work. I would like to know, as you know, I want you guys to tell me what you think about this. Let's go to the comment section. I'll be expecting you guys, and let's discuss about this. Let us talk about this, guys. I would be so excited to talk about this with you guys. I'll be right at the comment section. But for me, I have heard my opinion at the beginning of the video that I believe that whatever it is, let us be modest. Let us be modest. Way back when I was younger, like from a young age, I had always been myself when it comes to my appearance. I'm so sorry. Like, I'm not sorry. I've always been myself. Yes, I don't want to care. I don't want to know. I don't want to know how you want to think about me. This is me and this is me. And that's a period. I had always been myself when it comes to my appearance. If you see me, this is me. Like, this is me. But I don't do too much. I don't even like too much of everything. Let everything just be as modest as possible, as simple as possible. There is beauty in simplicity, and modesty is the new classy. So please, Christians, let's just be modest, and at the same time, let us be guided. I want to add this. One thing about faith is Faith and fashion is you can't compel anybody to do what they don't want to do. Yes, so there must be conviction. People have to be convinced not to do some things and to do some things. For me, the way I dress, I have inner conviction. Nothing, my heart, my mind, my spirit is not judging me. There's no day that I dress and I go out and I begin to like cover up and and I don't feel comfortable. I make sure that whatever I'm wearing, I feel comfortable wearing it and I feel okay with it. I don't know about you guys. So the number one thing is that you personally have to be convinced about the way you show up everywhere. Some ladies will dress up before they leave home. They will dress up by themselves. So, but when they get out, they will now be doing like this. Sister, you saw this thing before you left home. Why did you go out like that in the first place? And now you're outside, you're covering up, you're dragging down your skirt and pulling up your top. But you were the one that wore it and you saw your mirror before you left. So, one thing I want us to know is that just make sure that you're convinced in yourself and there's no way the person that is doing bad thing will know that he's doing bad thing. It's just that you're looking for someone that will tell you that you're doing bad thing. Let us be mindful and let us always respond to the Holy Spirit. Let us always listen to the Holy Spirit when we are being instructed. When you're being instructed, make sure you hear what the Holy Spirit is asking you to do and not to do. So back to Pastor Jimmy Odukoya. Please leave Pastor Jimmy alone. You are not his God, though, and you're not the one that called him. All of you that are judging on the internet, please leave this man of God alone. It is God that called him. He is hearing God. Like there's no way that two people can hear God on the same like he's one ear. God is talking to him personally. And he's talking to you too. It is possible that God shares my information with you if he needs you to do something concerning my life and destiny. But one thing I know is that God speaks to us individually. That one is different. Now, God speaks to us individually. You don't know what God told him. You don't know what God has led him or instructed him to do. So I'm sorry to use this example, but when God was going to use Rahab the harlot, nobody was there. Who would ever think that God is going to use Rahab? I'm not saying this to say that Pastor Jimmy is not good. Yeah, I'm just trying to let you know that God uses anybody he wants to use and he uses anything, yes, he wants to use. So if Pastor Jimmy says God is using his dress lock, he asked him to keep it. It is none of our business. And let us just be mindful because some people, when they get to heaven, in everything they get checked, they are okay. But the only offense that they commit is that they are busy abusing pastors, men of God, ministers of God on the internet. May that not be your portion. So be mindful and be careful when it comes to issues that has to do with men of God. Be careful. I pray God will help us all in Jesus' name. This will be the end of today's video. I'm sure it gets some inspiration and excitement from it. If that be it, please like, share, and don't forget to join this community by hitting the subscribe icon. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in my next video.